From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and Million Dollar Listing, this is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello, and welcome to the Wow Report right here on Radio Andy. We're coming to you from Los Angeles, California, where every week we count down the top 10 things that made us go, wow. I'm Tom Campbell. I'm here as I am every week with the incredible James St. James.
Woo!
Our best-selling author. Fenton, our fearless leader, is away somewhere in Europe, I think. There, I geo-located him for you. And filling him for him, someone who's always here behind the scenes, but is now on camera for the entire show and on the radio, it's Blake Jacobs. Let's jump immediately to number 10.
Number 10.
Barbara Walters documentary called Barbara Walters Tell Me Everything just debuted on Hulu. And you know, for one brief year of my life, I work very closely with Barbara Walters.
It was only 1 year?
Yeah. I would like to say
it sound like it was decades from the story you tell.
Well, because it was an intense year.
I thought she was on the Harvard Den and Tonics with you.
Oh, how dare you guys? I don't know what I've done to make you so upset. But Barbara, I'd like to think she was my tutor for a year. I'm sure she would not want to think that at all. One of the clever things that the filmmaker did is she's asked so many questions of so many people. So a lot of times they kind of have her ask a question of some celebrity, and then it would lead off to like her private life or her childhood. And she was a strikingly beautiful woman I've come away with. You know what I'm saying? It's like for all of the disparaging, we spend time with her. She is the epitome of like classy 70s hairdos. And
she was always an older lady to me, but
yeah,
on the thumbnail of this documentary, she does look gorgeous.
And
she looks like Martha Stewart even.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she was, in the 70s, she was in her 30s probably. So she was a young woman, compared to what we are now. She was a child, a fetus.
And she narrates the whole thing because she was not afraid to talk about herself or her life. You know what I mean? Like she had a lot of self-awareness, and she's so gosh darn smart. And she's so measured with her words, not evasive, but just her wording is so accurate, something we don't have anymore today.
Like Martha Stewart, kind of.
Yes. And I would say Barbara was even for that time, even a little bit more vulnerable. But I'm going to spend this first segment talking to you about developing The View, which I was very lucky to do because I got to spend a lot of time with Barbara Walters. And this is just my little add-ons. But I was a VP at ABC Daytime in the 90s, and I was brought on to fix or cancel Mike and Maddie, which was a talk show that was not doing very well. I did both. I think I fixed it, and then we canceled it. And I replaced it with this incredible show called Caroline Marilyn Real Friends, which was about the mommies. And it rated through the roof. We had Stuart Krasnow producing it. It was ready to be a huge hit, and it bombed. And I went from being the golden boy at ABC to being loathed. And I got the kind of review that's like the next time you go to work, there's going to be a brown box. Aww. And then Barbara Walters saved my life. She had come over from ABC News, which was very different at the time, from ABC Daytime, worlds apart, even though you could get there by hallway in New York. And I was in LA, but she came in and she pitched everybody at ABC, except for me, my bosses, a show called Everybody's Got an Opinion. She had a show, which is not mentioned in the documentary, called For Women Only, which was a syndicated show in the early 70s that they changed the title to Not For Women Only. And it wasn't a success. But Barbara, this is the 90s, is the queen of all media at this time, but she had never owned anything. So she came up with an idea of women, different backgrounds, different generations coming together to talk every day. It eventually was called The View. I wish I could take credit for the name. Somebody else really clever in the post did. So then it was, Tom, you need to fly out here immediately. Barbara wants to talk to you. She wants to know everything you know about daytime, which I don't know if I knew it professionally or if I knew it just from watching hours and hours and hours of daytime, like James St. James. So I would sit face to face with Barbara for like 2 hours, an afternoon, and she would pump me about ideas, a few times. It wasn't, she had a lot to do, and she said to me, she goes, "What do you think makes Rosie O'Donnell so popular?" And Rosie was 1 year on the air and was the biggest thing, and had just been on the cover of Time magazine as the queen of nice. And I was like, well, and I was young enough then and naive enough then to not
just to be bullshit and just talk
and mean it, and but not even think about the consequences of my words. And she listened and she goes, what do you think makes Oprah so important, so popular? And I'm like, oh, Oprah. And I go off and off and off. And then I realized halfway through my Oprah speech that Oprah has been, at that time, people were saying Oprah should run for president. And here is Barbara Walters, who invented, and in the documentary, Oprah says she modeled herself after Barbara Walters. And here are these women who are coming in, who are getting the kind of attention and money she had never seen. She did well, but she didn't own. She was an employee. And she's like, I want a piece of that. I want that for myself. She also said at the time, I want The View to be my retirement condo. She was 66 or 67 years old when we started The View. Looked amazing, sharp as a tack, body of a 29-year-old Playboy bunny, just incredibly beautiful.
Now you've gone too far.
No, I'm telling you, because she would always cover it up. I took her out once. We had an affiliate, an advertiser night. In daytime, they would have casino night where they would get all of the Palmolive advertisers to come, all of the lackeys and account managers, and they would come to casino night. And Susan Lucci would roll the dice. And because The View was just debuting, they had the View girls come down, the View women. And Barbara Walters showed up. It started at 7. She was there at 7. She wasn't in her work clothes. She was in this nighttime black leotard with this incredible rack, this beautiful poofy green satin shirt, black tights, and she was going to give a speech to Michael Eisner or something. And we got there at 11, and everyone's like, hey, Barbara, thanks for coming. All the sales guys, it's real nice to have you here, Barbara Walters. And she leans, she goes, come over here. She goes, why am I here? I'm here to shake hands and greet people. Get people over here right now. She wasn't mean, but she was just so efficient. This was one of many important things she was doing that day. And she had taken the time. So line them up. And then she was so gracious to every human being who touched her, every sales, junior executive that came to speak to Barbara Walters. Then they were all of a sudden, they were so happy to have Barbara. And then they're like, oh my God, she's going to skew old. Oh my God, Barbara Walters is going to skew old. Oh no. Barbara said she wanted to be on air 3 times a week or 2 times a week. And then she would watch, and she would be her retirement condo. It was going to be a place that she could, over her later years, do a little bit less and still be on the air. How can she only be on twice a week? It doesn't make sense. People understand. So I said, I'm going to tell Barbara, to my bosses, she needs to be on every week, every day of the week, and we're going to book the biggest women in New York, not a recurring cast, but Hillary Clinton and Cindy Crawford, the most important. And they're going to come together and they're going to talk about that day's issues. And they're like, yeah, Tom, you tell Barbara that. So I went for one of my 2-hour meetings with Barbara. I said, Barbara, listen up. I said, we're going to do the show, right? But you're going to be on 5 days a week, right? And we're going to get the biggest names in the world, right? And she looked at me with that missing beat. She goes, that's a great idea. You should do that show, but not with me, because that's not the show I pitched you. And my life changed because I had been spinning my wheels. I was not in a good place at my job. And they wanted to change things every minute. Every day was a new idea. Every day was a new idea. And finally, it was like the earth stood still because Barbara Walters had a vision. So from that moment on, we built The View. We got a suite at the Essex House, and we had different groups of women come and take the New York Times and sit in front of a casting camera and read the headlines from the news. The first group included Meredith Vieira, Star Jones, Joy Behar, and Debbie Matenopoulos. Just it was the first group we ever saw. And it was the morning after the Hail Bop, that cult in San Diego that all put things over their head and had sneakers and killed themselves because they were going to a better place. And they were going down the line. Meredith Vieira was very serious at the time. She was doing a Monday night news magazine. And everyone was like, well, it's very upsetting that they would go there. And it gets to Debbie Matenopoulos, who we thought was an MTV VJ, but she was just like an intern who knew the casting guy. And she was beautiful and vivacious. And she said, I don't know about you guys, but my generation thinks that there are aliens, and I think they might be in a better place. And from that moment on, because she was able to stir up the conversation, Barbara loved her Debbie Matenopoulos. I just have to say, she was everything. Barbara was classy, smart, gossipy. And the night before we debuted, she took the inner circle of the network executives, also buttering us up because she knew how to help, to Le Cirque for dinner. And we sat next to Sylvester Stallone, who came over to talk to Barbara. So it was a very heady time. But the problem was it going to skew old? Would it be a hit or another ABC daytime disaster? More on that as we continue the countdown. Let's move on now to Number 9.
Number 9.
I saw 28 Days Later. Oh, no, I didn't see 28 Days Later. I saw 28 Years Later at the movie theater over the weekend. It was awful. It was terrible. I hated every minute.
What is it?
What is it? It's the sequel to 28 Days Later and 28 Months Later, which is about the zombie movies from the iconic zombie movies, some of the scariest movies of all time from the 90s and 2000s. You've never heard of this, Tom?
I'm not a big zombie fan, but I want to learn.
Well, the thing about the 28 Days Later franchise is that this was the first time that zombies were fast. They're infected with a rage virus. They get bitten, and instantly they are racing at 60 miles an hour after you, and they are chasing you across fields, and it's just terrifying. That being said, what happened with this is there was the trailer that came out over Christmas, and it was boots marching up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. The Rudyard Kipling poem that terrified generations of Brits.
And we talked about it earlier on the show. We did a trailer park for this.
It is one of the most terrifying trailers of all time. It is one of the most effective trailers of all time, and what happened is it set up a movie that couldn't possibly live up to the trailer. And that happens every once in a while where the trailer is better than the movie. And what happened here is you had sort of a nostalgic, gushing story plot line about a group of people who have survived the zombie apocalypse, and they're all living together in this one area. And it has this fantastic cast of Aaron Taylor Johnson, Jodie Comer, and the kid from Adolescence, who is just so brilliant in Adolescence. And you have these great actors, but you ugly up Aaron Taylor and Johnson. You don't take his shirt off once. I mean, what the fuck are you doing? How do you have this fantastic guy and you don't utilize him properly? So they go out and they're fighting zombies, but the zombies this time aren't fast. They're slow and they're fat, and because they've been eating too many people. I don't know what it is.
I know. I was like, did they go to America?
Yeah, why are the zombies now fat and naked and slow? It doesn't make any sense. But there's a pregnant zombie who gives birth to a real baby that's not a zombie, and so they take care of the baby. And then there's this leader of the zombies, and he's got this huge penis because they're all naked and running around. It's this huge floppy penis, huge like an arm, yes. But anyway, in the ending, there's a group called the Jimmies, and they meet up with the group called the kid meets up with a bunch of Jimmies, and the Jimmies are all based on Jimmy Savile, who was a British TV host, a children's show. And nobody in America really knows the story of Jimmy Savile. He had been molesting children for decades, and he was this beloved TV show host, but in real life he'd been molesting children. But with that time that 28 Days happened, they didn't know that. So there's a group called the Jimmies who think of Jimmy Savile as a hero, and you have to know that to understand the ending of the movie. Well, not one American, the audience was filled with people, not one of them understood what that ending was. All of a sudden, you just had these people in long blonde wigs calling themselves Jimmies, and it makes no sense. You didn't understand.
No, they were all wearing like velour tracksuits. I'm like,
they were wearing velour tracksuits, and they were sort of a little bit of like they were doing Power Rangers moves. They were chavvy, but they were doing Power Rangers moves. But you have to know that Jimmy Savile is their hero because this takes place before they understand that Jimmy Savile was a molester.
Yeah, it was.
So the ending sets it up for another movie. It doesn't really end at all. It was sort of a mess, and it's a shame because the first two are fantastic, terrifying movies. And if you get a chance, go onto YouTube and just do the Rudyard Kipling song "Boots" for the trailer. It's just one of the most terrifying.
It is terrifying.
All right, I don't think I'm going to watch it.
Well, it was a big zombie penis flop.
Yeah, but Tom, I do think you should go and do the trailer just so you can see the Rudyard Kipling poem. The Rudyard Kipling poem.
You mentioned that before. I did listen to that, and it was very effective. It was very effective.
In World War I, an actor went on the radio and read it, and it just is so terrifying.
So watch the trailer, skip the movie. That's your recommendation.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on now to number 8.
Number 8.
And surprise guest visitor, it's Randy Barbado.
Hi.
Take it away, Randy.
Gavin Newsom. Look, I don't have much to say about him other than he's exciting me. And the reason he's exciting me is because he's got balls. and he's just going for it. And we sit around and we complain about the Democrats and we complain about the situation we're in. And we're in the situation we're in is because they're all bullies and they just are ruthless. And we need to fight back in the same way. And I've really gotten excited about just the way he's gone after them the past month or the past few weeks.
Gotta stop being defensive and be oppositional. And Gavin Newsom is an opposition force.
Yep.
They need their own medicine.
Yes. Yeah. And he's, I was anxious about him because I can see all the different ways that they can attack him, but he knows how to attack back. I'm not worried about him. He's a big boy. And so he excites me.
Well, I'll tell you something. He excites me too. We seem to have, in just the past 3 months, maybe, we have Ossoff, we have Newsom, we have Jasmine Crockett, we have AOC, all going on the attacks. And I like Buttigieg still. I think he's the smartest man of either party. I don't think he can be president yet. I don't think the world will have a gay man. And they won't do Jasmine either, but I like having them around and I like having them be pit bulls that go after the Republicans. I do think that Ossoff and Newsom would be a fantastic pair.
The thing that Gavin has going for him and being a citizen of California is he is defending the state of California, which is, we're under war from the MAGA. So he's protecting the state. He's not making profound statements that don't, that are philosophical or political or about the budget. He's talking about survival of California, survival of our rights. So he has a real focus, which I think is what makes his message so exceptionally powerful.
Yep.
And needed, necessary.
And I love that he's trolling JD Vance.
More of that, please.
Yes. Please.
Yeah. I love it. Well, Randy, will you stick with us for the rest of the cast?
We have a lot of, I don't know about this frame. We have a lot of headroom, but yeah, I'll stick.
I was going to say something, but far be it from me to.
It's so weird. Tom's usually good about his composition.
Well, I am, especially for a solo composition. Yeah.
Look how big your head is.
Oh,
why is your head so big?
I don't know.
Mine's so small.
Very sensitive. Listen, now that Randy's here, all hell is going to break loose, but we're going to take a little break, reset, and then continue the countdown. But before we do, Blake, do you have something for us?
I do. I just wanted to tell everyone that the Gaming Awards, that's Gaming Awards, trailer was released this week at A World of Wonder on our socials. It's hosted by Melody Confetti and Deer, with a special guest appearance by Morgan McMichaels. And the Gaming Awards will premiere exclusively on Wow Presents Plus on July 8th.
How fun.
Oh my God, I can't wait. All right, well, let's take our break. When we come back, we'll continue counting down the top 10 things that made us go, wow, here on the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
We are back. It's the Wow Report on Radio Andy. It's Tom Campbell with James St. James, Blake Jacobs, and our extra special guest star, Randy Barbado. Fenton is out doing work in Europe or something, so we're holding down the fort as we count down the top 10 things of the week that made us go wow. We are now at number 7.
Number 7.
Randy, you missed the first segment. I'm taking advantage of the fact that the Barbara Walters Tell Me Everything documentary is out on Hulu, and they didn't interview me. They interviewed Andy,
weird.
but didn't interview me. So I'm just sharing some of my experience with Barbara Walters, who I adore. And I talked in the first segment sort of about the development of The View. I worked with her for 1 year. And now I want to talk about the actual production. So they want me fired at ABC. I messed up terribly, but I've got water up my lower lip, like, make The View work, make The View work. Barbara Walters has a point of view, not going to let go of it. We go to New Jersey. We have focus groups. We did test episodes that no one has the money for anymore. And we go and we're in New Jersey in the middle of the night and we're leaning against the glass, and my boss, who will remain unnamed, turns to me and says, not like great show or I'm good luck tomorrow, break a leg. She goes, is this thing going to be a hit or a bomb? And I was like, and because James, I was still too young and too naive, I always had to come back. I didn't fall down. I didn't know the next words were coming out of my mouth. I said, it won't be an embarrassment, because I felt like up to that point, we had launched 2 shows that didn't have legs for whatever reason. No offense to anyone involved. And so we do what executives do, which is we come up with every single possible variation on a theme. And because it's a daily show, you can do something different every day, and it drives you crazy and there's no center. So I said, it won't be an embarrassment. So we started off I mean, we had big stars the first week: Michael Douglas, Tom Selleck. Barbara knew everyone. Barbara was the queen of all media. Still is in my mind. No one's surpassed her. And the ratings were just and it was skewing a little old. We launched in August, and it wasn't that long, but everything was live, and we taped our first show for Labor Day Monday, so people could take the weekend off. It's New York, and Princess Diana died in the car accident. And I was the weirdo executive saying, get everybody back from vacation, turn on one camera and a light bulb. We have to talk about this. This is a huge story. And everyone's like, Tom, you can't do that. Like, crews everywhere, whatever. So we had Tom Arnold on as our guest the day of the pre-tape segment. And then the next day, Barbara came in. We're live, and the biggest story of the decade. And Barbara came in because she was friends with Princess Diana. She had corresponded with Princess Diana. She had dined with her. And she came in with, like, I think she had flown to London, done stories, flown back from London, 67 years old, showed up at this thing and was like, here's a letter that Princess Diana wrote me. Look here in the back where she signs her name with the royal crown. She's had such insight on every topic. And from that moment on, there was a national conversation, and The View took off. It was not polarizing at that point. They were political, but we lived in a different time period. People got along. They still emphasize a lot about how political The View is and how divisive it is. It's become that. But at this time, it was a different kind of conversation. They were always worried, my bosses, that the show's going to skew too old. And so I had to approve the hot topics every day. And there was one story that was like, women need more broccoli to get calcium. And it was breaking. It was breaking the whole day. Everyone was saying it on the news. And the other story was there was like a Thelma and Louise drive-by shooting in Louisiana, 2 women with guns. And we all thought at the network side, well, that Thelma and Louise story is going to really bring in young viewers and keep them glued to the screen. But Barbara said, shouldn't we start with broccoli? And I had to say so I'm in my control booth, like we were at the all my children's stages. So I'm on one floor, Barbara's on 2 floors down in makeup, we're going to go live. And she gets me the phone. She goes, what do I hear about this, changing the order? And I said, well, Barbara, there's concern that, and you had to just have an answer for her. She was always polite to me because I think I was network. But if you didn't, so I said, Barbara, I think, we don't want to skew young, and this might be a more upbeat, kind of youthful story or something. I didn't use the word youthful. And she said, and she had a producer in front of her. I don't know who it was. She goes, what do you think? And I heard the producer, because she's very direct and very demanding. And the producer was like, I could go. She goes, why are you producer? You don't have an opinion. She didn't scream at her. But it was just this intensity, because Barbara was always figuring things out. She was the kind of person that you'd make a recommendation to and she'd say no. And then you'd see her think about it. And then the next day she might incorporate it. Not in an evil, I take credit for it, but everything went through the Barbara filter. And by the way, she finessed her way as a pioneer, as a woman without any kind of role model. She defined what are women today. And there's a moment at the end of the documentary, I give it away, it's the end of The View, where the last episode of The View where she finally retired, where they brought out every woman who works in news.
Oh,
and
right. I remember that. Yeah.
And it was like, because and they truly do. It's not, and she said, all you can hope for is that you maybe made a difference, that you perhaps made a difference. She wasn't like, she always chose her words so carefully. All right. And the last thing I'll say is, my mom, who had battled cancer for many years, died during that winter. And so I would be in New York for a week working in The View, and then I would go home and be with my mom. And Barbara Walters wrote me not 1, but 2, but 3 notes, handwritten, very thoughtful. She didn't know me but for a few months, but just was from a line of people, class of people. And the other thing, which they don't talk about in the documentary that much, they mention it, is that at the same time this was happening, my friend Johnny was marrying Ashton Hawkins, who was this huge society person who knew Warhol, who was the legal counsel at the Metropolitan. And he didn't watch TV. He knew Barbara through the social circles that James loves and adores in New York. She had also had become part of that group. And so she had this respect.
Very much up there with Brooke Astor. Yes, of course.
Yes. And she was with Brooke Astor, and she gained everyone's respect. So I she's human, but I'm just so lucky that I got to spend a little bit of time with her. And I feel like every moment I was with her, and I had a million examples, but I won't bore you. I learned like a life lesson on how to be a professional in the business from Barbara Walters. So let's move on to number 6.
Number 6.
I subscribe to BritBox subscription of British TV shows, only because I wanted to watch this show called Outrageous. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's getting a lot of press in the UK, probably not so much here. It's a series, a fictional series. It's a fictionalized version of the Mitford sisters, and the Mitford sisters in the 30s, 40s, and 50s were like the Kardashians of their day. They were 6 sisters. They were each very, very different from each other, but they were kooky and wacky and eccentric in a way that is really fun. There was Nancy, who was the oldest sister, and she was a bitch, and she was the woman writer, and she wrote about the family. There was Diana. What?
Courtney
who?
She's doing
Kardashian.
Kardashian names.
Oh, but she's the Kris Jenner. She's sort of like the brains of the group. Anyway, there's Diana, who was the great beauty of the lot. And what?
She's saying she's Kim. Play along with the Kardashian things. Help bring in the dumb people, James.
I brought it up, for Christ's sakes. Let me get through this because there's 6 of them. Okay, so there's Diana, who married Brian Guinness and became Daphne Guinness's grandmother, and she Chloe. Exactly like Daphne Guinness. Okay. Then after that, she married Sir Oswald Mosley, who was the leader of the fascist movement in England. He was the brown shirts. He was the UK equivalent of Hitler and Mussolini. And yes?
Kanye.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, you guys.
Okay.
I'm going
to interrupt anymore.
All the next time any one of you talks, I'm going to interrupt every 30 seconds. Okay. Anyway, there was then Unity, who was a Nazi, and she was a groupie of Hitler, and she was his girlfriend for a while. And when he died at the end of World War II, she shot herself in the head, and she survived, but was a vegetable for the rest of the time. Don't you dare say that's
Kendall.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, then there was Jessica, who was a communist. Then there was Debo, the youngest, who became the Duchess of Devonshire and has the great estate of Chatsworth. And she just died about 5 years ago, I think. She lived well into old age. And then there was Pamela, who was a farmer's wife. So you had a Nazi, a fascist, a communist, a duchess, a woman writer, and a farmer. And so they're all these completely different women. And you think that would make this fantastic show. I was so excited for it. I've read 100 books about the Mitfords. There's three bookshelves back there dedicated to the Mitfords, but this is a boring show, and it's not outrageous at all. And so my suggestion to you is, if you want to learn about the Mitfords, because they're absolutely fascinating and they're hysterical and funny, but read some of the letters, read some of the books, read some of the biographies.
Or watch season 4, Daphne Guinness's Night Fever. She talks about them, right?
She does. She talks a little bit about learning that her grandfather was the leader of the fascist movement and how that affected her and how people treated her very differently. And I sympathize because I have a grandfather that was pretty awful too. And I said, it's, how do you reconcile having this awful grandfather with the person that you knew and loved? And so we had a long conversation about that. That's on Night Fever.
James, may I pitch you a show? And I'm serious. No one knows the subject better than you. No one on the planet. This is uniquely your knowledge base. Puppets. Wow Presents Plus. Tell the story.
Ooh,
Finger puppets. Finger puppets. Hello.
Mitford finger puppets. I'll do it. All right.
That's good.
All right.
That's good.
Book the green screen stage. Blake, let's make this happen.
I'm penciling it in right now.
Try and do it quickly too.
And
Don't
cheaply.
spend too much time on
And you do all the parts,
you
James.
can do like 6 episodes in a day. Okay, because it's wow PP. Come on, make it happen.
All right.
Is that some sort of comment on how long it takes to film an episode of Night Fever?
No,
He's always like, we're always like, we'll do 2 in 2 days and we'll get 6 done. He's like, get 6 done in one day. Get 6 done in one day. It's nothing to do with you. All right. So Outrageous was not outrageous, I guess.
BritBox. On BritBox, yes. It's a British TV show.
Let's move on now to number 5.
Number 5.
And just like that, season 3.
Oh,
what do you think, James?
Oh, I just despise every minute of it, except for the hat in episode 1 of season 3, where she's wearing that big strawberry shortcake.
Ridiculous.
Hat.
Yeah. You liked that?
I did like that, yes.
Well, what do you not like?
I've never been a fan of the writing. I've always thought the writing was corny and just flat. I never get the jokes. I just think that it all falls flat.
Even on the original show?
Even on the original show, yes. I'm not a fan of Aiden as her love interest. I don't like Aiden in the whole where she's out in the corn cob fields and she's dressed as a trad wife. I no. Miranda is a lesbian. I sort of get into it, but this look-alike lesbian, I know lesbians like lookalikes, but for some reason this falls flat. I do think it was funny when Rosie O'Donnell was the nun that she slept with. She took her virginity. That was very funny. Also, you know, the
don't just jump over Rosie O'Donnell as a nun who gives up her virginity.
Yeah,
that
sounds great. That sounds a reason.
Yeah, no, she wakes up one morning and she turns her over and Rosie O'Donnell's in bed next to her. And Rosie O'Donnell's like, that was great. I've never experienced anything like that. And she's like, what? Why not? And Rosie's like, got gray hair and everything. She said, you just took my virginity. And she said, you've never been with a woman before? She said, I've never been with anyone. I'm a nun. So she starts stalking her and she's like, she keeps trying. She's like, I'm at the M&M store. I'm trying M&M's for the first time. Come meet me. And Miranda's like, just leave me alone. So that's very funny.
Oh, yeah, that sounds great.
Bearing the lead.
That was very sweet and cute. And I do like the character of Miranda, and I like Charlotte. I do like them all. But the one thing that Sex and the City had was Pat Field doing the outfits, doing the costumes, and Pat doesn't do it anymore. And so you can really see the difference between what Pat brought to the show and what this new woman did. So anyway, Blake, what did you think of it? I'm sorry.
It's not that I don't want this insight into their lives because we've been with them since the mid 90s, you know, but it is kind of boring now. Like she's an alcoholic, so she doesn't drink, and she's like a lesbian, and they all have kids.
And they have two new characters too that I don't think work as well. I know they're trying to be a little woke, and they're trying to bring in, you know, people of color and characters of color and everything like that. And the actors are fantastic, and I love them. But the storylines with the real estate woman, I just doesn't work for me. I'm sorry.
Well, they do have a big new star.
Who?
Ryan Serhant.
Oh yeah, Ryan Serhant is on it. Yes,
Yeah.
That is really fun when Ryan pops on, because Ryan, you know, I mean, we all know Ryan, and he is a firecracker. And just when he comes on, he's such a little bitch, but he does it with such charisma, and so he's so funny that he just manages. The scene just crackles when he's there.
I think it's brilliant casting on Michael Patrick King's part to bring
he
in.
plays himself.
Yeah. Can I just tell you the thing that distinguishes humans from other animal species is our ability to rip Sex and the City and Just Like That apart. It really is. It's like the opposable thumb and our ability to always use that as a target.
I'm still going to watch it every week.
Exactly.
When Sex and the City is on, when there's a marathon, I will find myself watching 8 or 9 episodes in a row. I watched all 4 episodes that they have out. I watched it in a night. It is popcorn TV. You just can't.
Well, I hate the slop like TV version. I want the HBO nasty talk, you know, original version.
Right, yeah.
Do you think maybe some of your reaction is a reaction to getting older? Do you think that when you watch it, it's not kind of delivering the youthful flair that excited you and you felt connected to, and that maybe now it's like looking in a mirror?
Well, there was the thing of the sort of the shock of the new, that we'd never seen a show like it when it debuted, and now it is something that we all know and are very much accustomed to. And
I'm one of those people that I want my shows that I like to be on forever. And you know, people are like, go out while you're on top at season 3. Even you know,
that horse into the yeah.
It gets lots of press. I mean, people love to talk about it, as we've loved to talk about it here on the show. So, Just Like That, season 57, it's playing right now on Max. We're going to take a little break before we go away. Anything you want to say, Blake?
There sure is. The first 2 episodes of Night Fever are out now on Wow Presents Plus. We've got, who are the first ones? Nell Campbell from Rocky Horror and Jodie Harsh.
Who's probably the busiest drag queen in the UK, and she has a new book out detailing her London club scenes of the early aughts.
And everyone will be very excited for our next episode, which is
we've got a man on the floor coming up. Woo!
Whoa,
That is hot. All right, let's take a quick break. Please don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back. It's the Wow Report on Radio Andy. I'm Tom Campbell with Randy Barbado, James St. James, Blake Jacobs. Hey, Fenton. We are counting down the top 10 things that made us go wow this week, and we have reached number 4.
Number 4.
Gilded Age is back. I will love it and watch it, and I will hate to love it. And let me give you my synopsis. So Kelly O'Hara, I don't know anyone's real name. Kelly O'Hara, the Broadway blonde, is getting a divorce. So we're going to be exploring what it means to be divorced, a divorced woman in society in 1880s. Kind of interesting, but okay, came out of nowhere. That we're still dealing with the reversal of fortune plot line between Christine Baranski, who had all the money, and Cynthia Nixon, who was her like a companion, her cousin who was there. But Cynthia Nixon got married, her character, and when he died, she found out she's super rich, and Christine Baranski's son lost all their money. So now there's a lot of like, who's in charge here?
The big plot point this time was there were 2 dueling sets of silverware. The whole plot, the whole show was about which silverware set were you going to use?
Exactly.
So it's very low stakes, very low stakes.
Yeah. All right. The whole thing starts off. There's some business deal in Arizona that has to either do with railroads or mines. I don't care. And the worst part, I read this in a recap. Morgan Spector, who might be the sexiest man.
Sexiest man on the planet. Definitely on television.
I might ghost Jonathan Bailey for Morgan Spector. That's how
Put
much
them both together in one show, and you've got.
Anyway, the only disappointment about the business deal in Arizona, other than the fact that I don't really follow the business deals, is that Morgan Spector was in Arizona in the desert. Great excuse to have him without a shirt on.
Yes.
Out for a shower, maybe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dirty.
None of that. Meryl Streep's daughter is not sure if she's in love with. She's now a third guy. A third hot, totally eligible,
he's
totally
so cute. He's so cute.
And she's not sure again for the third time if she's ready to settle down. Bitch, settle down.
Clock twink.
What?
The clock twink. The servant who invented the clock. And the clock
There's
twink.
a servant who's invented a special kind of clock, and he's a twink, and he's the clock twink. That was a lot for me to.
And for 3 seasons now, this damn clock has been almost getting a patent, and you know he's going to be screwed over. You know that he's good. But it's going to be another 3 seasons before the clock twink gets his damn clock.
Audra McDonald and her daughter storyline still makes no sense. God bless them. God bless the history that they're trying to represent. I love all that. And then the thing that I'm loving the most is this Carrie Coon. Especially now that I know what she really looks like because I saw her on White Lotus. But Carrie Coon carries herself so well. She's the most believable of that period. I really do believe. And she is trying very hard to marry her daughter off to that count, which is some real story that James probably knows.
Yes, what happened is the daughter of the Vanderbilt daughter. Her name was Gladys, and she was married to the Marlborough, the Duke of Marlborough, and it was one of the saddest, most pathetic marriages of all time. And she sobbed every day of her life until she was able to get a divorce from but the mother married her off to the Duke of Marlborough because he needed money, she needed a title, and the Vanderbilts needed to be up, raised up,
and everyone needed cigarettes.
And so far, the Wikipedia story is still better than the show. It could change. And the last thing, whenever we are in one of the mansion's kitchens, I don't know which one we're in. I don't know who they're talking about. I don't know who they are. I don't care. Okay? I don't know. I don't care. Now, that all being said, on Sunday nights, I wait until it drops and then click, I'm watching. Forget about Truth Social. If you want the truth, come here to the Wow Report and hear it from James St. James. He'll break it down for you.
True. But, like we said about the fact that it's so low stakes, I remember the premiere episode of season 2, there was 20 minutes where she was picking out a hat. Remember, like, the show opens with a 20 minutes, like, which hat is she going to wear? And that was, like, the big thing. And remember, there was the one episode where the Duke comes to dinner. I know it is. You can't stop watching it.
And she ended up wearing the hat that Carrie wore and just like that.
No, I was just saying they should get Rosie O'Donnell as a lesbian nun to join Gilded Age just for a.
But remember, there was the one episode where the Duke comes to dinner and they're serving soup, and the butler is sabotaging it, and he serves the soup lukewarm, and it's like the whole scandal of the whole show is that the soup was too lukewarm or too spicy or something like that. It's just
All right.
very low.
So to sum up this past 10 minutes, Gilded Age, we're obsessed. All right, let's move on now to number 3.
Number 3.
Documentary that just dropped with very little fanfare, surprisingly, on HBO, Surviving Ohio State. The documentary about the sexual abuse scandal that was over decades at Ohio State University in the 90s, 2000s, and 2010s, I think. It was
80s
the one.
too.
What? It was
In
the
the
80s
80s.
too. It was the physician, the sports physician, who was molesting boys the whole time. Now, we knew that we knew the documentary was in works before the 2020 election. Remember, George Clooney is the producer of it. And it was supposed to be the one that blew the socks off of Senator Jim Jordan, because he was complicit. He knew about the abuse and never did anything. And this was supposed to, before his reelection, it was going to come out and it was going to blow everything up. But for whatever reason, whatever legal reasons or pressure that was put on by the Trump administration or somebody, I don't know, that it's sat on the shelf all this time. And I don't know. I have a few theories about why that happened other than that. But it's a terrible, sad documentary. It's harrowing to watch. The fact that these 20-year-old, young men were systematically abused over and over and again, but they couldn't say anything because of masculine, how that boys just have a hard time coming forward about sexual abuse. So it stayed under the radar all this time.
I think everybody has trouble coming out about sexual abuse.
It's true. And I'm not taking anything away from any of women who were abused or anything like that, but it was that was sort of the way it's explained during this.
It's directed by Eva Orner.
Yeah, Eva Orner.
She's
and
amazing.
James, we're running out of time. I want to give you the last word. Do you recommend this to other people?
I do. I think everybody needs to see it. And I it's one of those things where you need to be on the lookout for these types of things happening, I guess.
What's it called again?
It's called Surviving Ohio State.
And it's on Max.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's move on to number 2.
Number 2.
Another reality show I am loving. It's called Destination X. It's on NBC Peacock. It's kind of like The Amazing Race. But the thing here is it's 10 people. They're on a bus. You live on this double-decker bus. You sleep on it. You're driving all around Europe. And you have to guess where in Europe you are. Like, you have to drop your X. So the worst thing is you have to go to the map room. You don't want to go to the map room in the bus. And the map room is where you go and you have to decide, drop your X. So and during the episode, they're dropping clues the whole time. Like,
they like to eat croissants.
Yeah, exactly.
Are they allowed to look out the window?
No, they block all the windows. And then when they take you outside, sometimes for challenges, they'll take the people outside and they wear these like goggle things that look like those Meta Quest 3.
Yeah.
And they're like blacked out. And then the producers have the ability to flip on certain people's or everyone's goggles to where they can see and, they can smell and taste. And it's really good. Jeffrey Dean Morgan hosts it.
I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Oh, he talk about hot.
Yeah. And it's pretty cool how they produce it. Like, it seems like everything is shot pretty much on the bus, except for a couple of things set up in each country,
Now, are there villains and do they interact with each other and they hate each other and they love each other and having affairs?
We're getting to that, yeah. Okay. As of now, I've seen the first 4 episodes, and spoiler alert, they brought in 2 new people that are, one is Peter. He was on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. He's the pilot, really hot. He was also on The Traitors.
Okay.
And then another is a girl from Love Island named Janae. So they came in late.
And you have to put an X on a map. And then are you collecting points? And is it just countries or talk to me about the point system?
Well, there's not points, but you get kicked off the bus. So the person who is furthest away, who drops their X furthest away from
I think I'm in Hong Kong and you're actually in,
Belgium.
Maryland. Yeah,
exactly.
Are they all former reality stars?
No, not everyone. In fact, there's this one woman that looks like Caitlyn Jenner so much. I swear it's her sister.
Yeah. I don't want to. I think the grand finale is they have to identify the place, and then what is the current tariff to the United States. Okay, thank you for that. The show is called Destination X, and it's on your NBC Universal Peacock kind of networks. Okay, look forward to that. We've come to the point where we're going to take our last commercial because when we come back, we're going to reveal the number one thing this week that made us go, wow. It's the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
We're back. It's the Wow Report on Radio Andy. It's Tom Campbell. I'm here with James St. James, Blake Jacobs, and our extra special guest star, Randy Barbado. And we've reached the number one thing this week that made us go, wow. Randy?
Number one.
Well, it was the Sheffield Documentary Film Festival in the UK, which was pretty extraordinary, actually.
I have to set up that Randy and Fenton were honored at the Sheffield Film Festival for a lifetime of their work, which they're still going strong. It's not the end, it's the beginning.
It's not the end. But that's not why it was so extraordinary. It's very dark times right now, politically speaking, but also within our industry. And so people come from all over the world to go to the Sheffield Documentary Film Festival. And there was this like sense of community, unlike what I felt at other film festivals. I think because nobody knows what the future of media is. Nobody knows, how to raise money. So it feels like we're all in it together. So it did seem like a really special week. The other reason it was really special is because there were all these great documentaries. Dustin Lance Black has a documentary out, Rock Out, which is amazing, which is about the homosexual experience in rock and roll, and which he's been making for years. Elegance Bratton has a documentary about house music. But there are three things I wanted to mention that we were involved with that really were pretty special events. We had a conversation with Ronan Farrow, and it was remote, and you'd think it might not be that special, but it really was special. And the thing about Ronan,
the picture I saw, he was giant on a screen.
He's giant and holds that close up, and he had a tangerine top on, which apparently he got on Amazon. And it was such an intense conversation about the politics of today, and people were riveted. They were at the edge of their seat. And Fenton and I just got to sit there, which was great, with this huge, gorgeous Ronan.
Wizard of Oz. He looked like the Wizard of Oz.
It was pretty phenomenal, and people were really riveted by that conversation. So that was amazing. The UK premiere of Strange Journey, the Rocky Horror show, which we're executive producers on. It was directed by Linus O'Brien, and it is a great
son of Richard O'Brien, the star Riff Raff.
He is the son of Riff Raff and the sort of creator of Rocky Horror Picture Show. And there's so many great reasons to see it because it'll remind you of, for some of us who are that old to remember. Mm-hmm. And it's funny and it's touching and it's moving. But the best thing about it is the relationship between Linus and his dad. And I'm not going to ruin it, but he's so sweet, this guy, and smart, and it's clever film. But it's worth seeing just for a moment at the very end, an exchange between him and his father. And it's also worth seeing because of the relationship between Richard and dressing up in whatever you call it, like his relationship to his identity and sexuality, which is kind of surprising and you don't expect it. Oh my God. Trixie opens the film and she's super articulate, super on point. And you feel like, I know her.
Trixie Mattel, the drag queen. Obviously.
Yes. And so she's absolutely like fabulous in this, talking about her own experience and relationship to Rocky Horror. The last thing that was really super special was that Adam and Joe, and if you haven't seen the Adam and Joe show, you should go to Wow Presents Plus because it lives there. But Adam and Joe are these English comics, actors, writers, hugely successful. Adam Buxton has a podcast that's super successful at the moment. And then Joe Cornish is this amazing writer. We were fortunate enough early on at World of Wonder, we did a series called Takeover TV for Channel 4. Adam Buxton sent in these hysterical homemade videotapes. They went on to be a part of Takeover TV. And then they had their own show, which was a hit show in the UK, the Adam and Joe show, which they made in their bedroom. And,
This is the early 2000s or late?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't ask me about dates.
Okay.
But it was a long, long time ago. And they were children. And so they had a conversation at the Sheffield Documentary Film Festival. And apparently the rumor is it's the first time the theater that they were in sold out. I mean, it was packed. Adam Buxton, by the way, who has a book that just came out, which is really great. I'm reading it right now. Adam is like this archivist and he saves everything and documents everything. So they had this conversation with him going through clips and photos. And I tell you, I did not stop laughing. It was so funny. They're so brilliant. And there's this in addition to they grew up as best friends, but there's also been some creative tension in the history of working together, which is part of the
sound familiar, James?
Which is part of the storyline, and they are so funny about it. They'll come to a clip and then, Adam will be, well, I think I did most of the work on this. It just made me want to see more of them. They taught me how to be a producer for great talent, because to be a producer for great talent, you just have to build a runway. You have to find the materials to build a runway and then just let them do their thing.
And that's a brilliant way to end. Randy, builder of runways, thank you for joining us. James St. James, Blake, thanks for being here. Fenton, we miss you. Hurry on home and safe travels. Same place, same time next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go, wow.